All right, everyone. Timothy Liljegren, could he be traded? He was scratched again. Scratched for both games to open up the season. So, talking about the Anaheim Ducks is one team I've talked about. There's a lot of guys that could be in trade conversations, from Cam Fowler to forwards on the Ducks. We'll see. But I do think that Anaheim, being younger, trading Drysdale last year, they could be looking for a youngish, again, Liljegren's going into his mid-20s. Right shot defenseman, Timmy Liljegren, maybe to Anaheim. I think that's a fair shout. The Buffalo Sabres, there's a lot of rumors online after Elliot Friedman in his 32 Thoughts talked about Liljegren and the Leafs seeking a trade potentially for Liljegren. The Sabres make sense, honestly. And again, I don't know if it'd be like a Yoki Haru or Clifton coming back. I don't know if the Leafs want another defenseman coming back really, but I feel like the Sabres could just use more depth, and they have the cap space. So maybe a guy like Ryan Johnson, who hasn't been able to crack the lineup for Buffalo, maybe the Leafs give him a shot, or one of their depth forwards, maybe even a mid-draft pick. But I could see with the Sabres cap space needing more depth, maybe being partnered up with a fellow Swede in Rasmus Dahlin. Maybe Liljegren finally gets his chance to be on the top pair with Dahlin. So I could see Buffalo making sense. But again, does Toronto want to trade in division? We'll see. LA, Drew Doughty injury. I think the Canes could make some sense. Arthur Kaliev went down with an injury, but I was saying, like, there's a lot of forwards there that could use a change of scenery in LA, from him to Turcotte. So I could see something like that. Maybe LA targets Liljegren. You can go into the comments to see if there's any other shouts. Detroit Red Wings, similar again. Do you want to trade in division? Detroit, rough start. Maybe. Again, after Seider, they don't have much on that right side. Justin Hall return to Toronto. No. I'd lose my mind. So I don't like this one, but I think it's a potential, and Detroit loves their Swedish defensemen. So San Jose, I could see this one. Again, there's a lot of veterans that maybe Toronto could target. Cheaper defenseman that Toronto could target that's not a $3 million defenseman like Liljegren. Again, the Sharks are looking for some projects, looking for guys that could pan out. I think Liljegren, I mean, he's been compared to like a Gustav Forsling, or guys that have been late on the scene like a Mackenzie Weegar. Do I think Liljegren's going to turn into Forsling? Maybe not, but at the same time, former first-round pick, 17th overall. At one point, he was one of the best in the draft class, top 2 ranked. So I think he could still pan out. He could be a late bloomer. I think San Jose gives me those vibes of looking at a Liljegren. I think he's got all the tools. It's just more of a decision-making thing with Liljegren, as I said. Minnesota, this one's interesting too. Like, again, they just saw a huge year from Brock Faber. They don't have like a lot on that defense group. They do have Faber and Spurgeon on the right side when they are healthy, so maybe not. And they also got Bogosian. But hey, if they wanted a reunion from Bogosian, Minnesota could make some sense. Again, I'm spitballing on some teams that maybe don't make as much sense as others. Dallas. I've already seen a few shouts on Twitter. A lot of people are talking about a Dallas connection here. And the Stars just brought in some physicality in Lyubushkin and Dumba. Like, I could see a scenario where they have one of those physical guys out of the lineup if they want more of a puck mover in Liljegren. Imagine like a blockbuster trade where Toronto gets like a Marchment or something like that. Again, I don't think Dallas wants to trade a Marchment, but Marchment would be exactly what Toronto would want. And then maybe you, again, this is hot take territory, but I've suggested this in the past where it's like Liljegren and Nick Robertson goes to Dallas, the Robertson brothers reunited, and then you get like a physical guy from Dallas. Again, do I think that's going to happen? Likely not. But I think Dallas is a possibility, actually, and it's being talked about a lot right now. And then one more team, I'll say Columbus. The one hot take I'll say about Columbus is there's a lot of rumors about Ivan Provorov being traded at some point this year by the Blue Jackets. He's a pending UFA. Provorov's had more experience up in the lineup. If the Leafs are not so bent on like having more left shot defensemen, I think a trade that actually could make sense is Liljegren going to Columbus. Maybe another piece from Toronto, and then like bringing in like Provorov and another guy from Columbus. So my hot take or my example would be like, okay, you send Liljegren and Calle Jarnkrok to Columbus, and then you bring back like Provorov retained and like a Sean Corrali. I would like a Sean Corrali in the Toronto bottom 6. I think that'd be a perfect fit. Corrali more physical, can play the center spot. If you could get another guy that can play center from Columbus, great. But I think that would be the perspective, right? Like you could get a Provorov who can play physical, can play up in the lineup if need be, retain salary, and then Columbus gets the more younger term guy. I mean, Liljegren's got 2 years. It could make some sense there for Columbus and Toronto to link up on a trade. And there's been conversations about it. So everyone always give your thoughts, but I think if Liljegren's traded, those are just some teams I could think of. Again, I'm sure there's other teams that maybe I left out, but if I could throw a top 3 together right now, it'd probably be like Anaheim, Columbus, and then the third hot take would be like a Buffalo or Dallas maybe. But again, there's a lot of teams that make sense there. So if Liljegren gets traded, we'll see. I personally would rather see Kampf and Yarncrow moved, and you just keep the defensive depth. It's never a bad thing to have more defensemen. And if anything, Timmins, to me, I have my opinions about Timmins. I think he's just slow. I think Liljegren's got more of the attributes to be something, even though his decision-making is questionable at times. I think if you could keep Liljegren and trade Kampf for Yarncrow, I'd rather go that route 100%.